For 22 years, I was both father and mother to my daughter Sienna. Her mother left when Sienna was barely 1 year old to be with her new family. At 23, my daughter moved in with her mother because they had a pool. For her wedding, she asked me not to attend because her stepfather was going to give her away. When I tried to talk to her, she said something that still haunts me. I changed my last name because I was ashamed of carrying yours. Those words wake me up at night. They changed everything forever. But let me tell you the whole story. Because what my daughter didn't know was that with that decision, she had just given up much more than a last name. It all started 22 years ago when Sienna was barely a year old. Her mother, Paige, decided that the life of a wife and mother wasn't for her. One morning, she simply packed her things and left me a note on the kitchen table, saying she had found someone who could give her the life she deserved. Someone with money, someone with a future. That someone was Samuel Cross, owner of a popular steakhouse chain, a man who could offer her the big house, international trips, jewelry, everything that I, a 28-year-old loan officer at a local bank, couldn't provide. I was left alone with Sienna, a baby who could barely walk, who cried for her mom every night for months. I knew nothing about taking care of children, nothing about making baby food, changing diapers in the middle of the night, or what to do when she had a fever and the pediatrician's after-hours line wasn't picking up. My brother Marcus helped as much as he could. He was 3 years older than me, and his son Miles had been born just 6 months before Sienna. Marcus was always the more practical of the two of us. That same week, he took me to Target for everything I needed for the baby. "Hey, Lucas," he said as he loaded the cart with formula and diapers, "this is going to be tough. That woman left because she didn't want responsibilities. Don't expect her to come back." He was right, as always. Paige would call every 3 or 4 months. She'd talk to Sienna for 5 minutes, promise to visit soon, and then disappear again. For birthdays and Christmases, she sent expensive gifts. American Girl dolls, brand new bikes, the latest gaming consoles, everything I couldn't afford on my salary. Meanwhile, I juggled everything to make ends meet. I worked extra shifts at the bank, taught basic accounting courses at the community college on weekends, and sold life insurance in the afternoons. Also, Sienna could have what she needed, go to a good school, have decent clothes, and be able to go to birthday parties with a gift in her hands. I sold my sports coupe and bought a more practical used pickup truck. We moved from a 2-bedroom apartment to a 3-bedroom house in a modest suburb so Sienna could have her own room. I stopped going out with my friends, stopped catching games, stopped doing everything that single men my age did, but I didn't regret it. Every morning when Sienna hugged me before school, every afternoon when she waited for me at the window until I got home from work, every night when she asked me to read her a story, I knew it was all worth it. Marcus always warned me. "Lucas, that girl is too spoiled. You give her everything she asks for. One day, she's going to cause you problems." His son Miles, on the other hand, was completely different. He was a calm, polite boy who always treated me with kindness. "Uncle Lucas," he'd say when he came over, "can I help you with dinner? Do you want me to help carry in the groceries?" Miles and Sienna played together when they were little, but as they grew up, the difference became obvious. Sienna always wanted what she didn't have. She always complained that our house was small, that our truck was old, that we couldn't take vacations like the families of her friends from the private school I was killing myself working to pay for. The neighborhood friends saw it all. "Lucas," Mr. Robert, my next-door neighbor, would say, "that little girl is never satisfied with anything. You work yourself to the bone, and she always has a long face." Mary, the woman who ran the corner deli, noticed it too. "That girl never says thank you when you come to buy her a treat," she commented. "She's always thinking about something else." But I defended her. "It's just a phase," I'd tell them. "All teenagers are like this." The years flew by. Sienna graduated from high school and went to college to study business administration. I paid for every semester, every textbook, every project. I went into debt up to my neck so she could have the education I could never afford for myself. During those university years, Paige started showing up more often. She took Sienna to lunch at expensive restaurants, bought her designer clothes, and told her about the new house Samuel had bought in the city's most exclusive gated community, a house with a pool. When Sienna turned 23 and graduated from college, she came home with news that broke my heart. "Dad," she said without even sitting down in the living room, "I'm going to move in with Mom and Samuel." "What? Why?" "Because there I have my own room with a private bathroom. Because they have a pool. Because I can invite my friends over without them being embarrassed by where I live." That last sentence hurt more than all the sleepless nights, more than all the sacrifices, more than all the years of loneliness. She was ashamed of this house, the house where I raised her. It's not about that, Dad. It's about my future. Samuel is going to get me a job in his corporate office. I can build a career there. When she left, the house felt as empty as it had 22 years earlier. A year later, she met Adrian at one of Samuel's company parties, a young executive from a wealthy family. They got engaged 6 months into their relationship. The wedding invitation arrived in the mail, an elegant, expensive invitation with gold lettering. I was thrilled, thinking I would finally be part of one of the most important moments of my daughter's life. I went to the mall and bought the best suit I could afford, a navy blue suit that fit me perfectly. I also bought new dress shoes and a matching tie. I spent the equivalent of 2 months of my base salary, but I didn't care. It was my daughter's wedding. I even went to a jewelry store and put a set of pearl earrings on layaway to give her something elegant, something she could wear for the rest of her life and remember that her dad was there on her special day. Miles went with me to pick out the gift. "Uncle," he said as we looked at the options in the display case, "I'm sure Sienna is going to cry with joy when she sees what you bought her." Marcus was also excited for me. "Brother," he told me that afternoon, "you're finally going to get to enjoy watching your daughter get married after everything you've been through. You deserve it." Mr. Robert saw me arrive with the shopping bags. "Are you ready for the wedding?" he asked. "I'm sure Sienna will be happy to have her dad there to support her." I just smiled and nodded. Finally, after years of distance, we were going to be together again as a family on the most important day of her life. What I didn't know was that 3 days before the wedding, I would receive a call that would change everything forever. The call came on a Tuesday night. I was watching TV after getting home from work when the phone rang. I saw Sienna's name on the screen and my heart lit up. We hadn't spoken in weeks. "Hello, sweetheart," I said, answering. "How are you? Is everything ready for Saturday?" "Dad," she replied in a voice I didn't recognize, cold and distant. "I need to talk to you about the wedding." "Of course. Tell me, do you need help with anything?" There was a long silence on the other end of the line. So long I thought the call had been disconnected. "Dad, the thing is, Samuel is the one who will walk me down the aisle." "What? I don't understand." "Samuel? Why Samuel?" "Because he's been there for me these last few years, because he paid for my master's degree, because he gave me my job." "Because what, Sienna? Because what?" "Because I don't want any drama on my special day. Adrian and his family are very elegant, very proper. I don't want any uncomfortable situations." Uncomfortable situations? I, her father, who raised her for 22 years, was an uncomfortable situation. "Sienna, I'm your dad. I raised you since you were a year old. I changed your diapers, took you to the doctor, helped you with your homework, paid for your school, paid for your university." "Yes, I know all that," she interrupted with annoyance. "But this is different. Samuel understands this world. He knows how to behave at these kinds of events. And I don't? Dad, don't play the victim. You know how things are. Adrian's family is very important. They have connections. They have status. Samuel fits in better in that environment." I was speechless. I literally couldn't speak. After a few seconds that felt like hours, I managed to ask the only thing that came to mind. "Then why did you invite me?" "You can come as a guest. I'll reserve a table for you toward the back with some family friends." Toward the back, like any other guest at my own daughter's wedding. "Sienna, please reconsider. I'm your father, the only one who was always there for you." "Dad, I've already made my decision. Don't make this any harder for me." And she hung up. The next day after work, I drove to Paige and Samuel's house, an imposing mansion in the most expensive neighborhood in the city, with a large garden, a pool, and 3 luxury cars in the driveway. Everything I could never give my daughter. I rang the doorbell and Paige opened it. She looked the same as always, perfectly put together, as if she were about to go to a gala at any moment. "Lucas," she said with faint surprise, "what are you doing here?" "I'm here to talk to Sienna. I need to clear things up about the wedding." "I don't think that's a good idea. She's already very stressed with all the preparations." "Paige, she's my daughter. I have the right to speak with her." She sighed and let me in. The house was exactly as I had imagined. Expensive furniture, marble floors, modern art on the walls, a curved staircase leading to the second floor. "Sienna!" Paige shouted. "Your father wants to talk to you." Sienna came down the stairs wearing a silk robe. She looked annoyed, as if I had interrupted something very important. "Dad, I already told you there's nothing to talk about." "Sienna, please, let's talk in private." "No, Whatever you have to say, you can say it here. Just then, Samuel appeared, a tall, elegant man with perfectly styled hair, wearing a designer shirt that probably cost more than my weekly salary. "Lucas," he said, extending his hand. "How are you?" "Fine, Samuel. I'm here to talk to my daughter about her wedding." "Yes," Paige told me. "Look, I understand this might be difficult for you, but you have to understand that Sienna isn't a little girl anymore. She can make her own decisions. Of course she can. But I'm her father, the man who raised her. And I'm the man who helped her become the successful woman she is today," he replied with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Sienna crossed her arms and looked at me as if I were a misbehaving child. "Dad, Samuel is right. I'm not the little girl who needed you to tie her shoes or check her homework anymore. I'm a professional now, an independent woman, and Samuel understands that world better than you do." That sentence hurt more than any physical blow. "That world? What world are you talking about, Sienna?" "The real world, Dad. The world of business, of important connections, of people who can actually help me grow professionally. And what am I? An obstacle?" "You're not an obstacle, but you're not what I need in my life right now." What she needed. After 22 years of giving her everything she needed, now I wasn't what she needed. "Sienna, listen to me carefully. I gave up everything for you. My social life, relationships, job opportunities. I did it all for you. Yes, I know and I appreciate it, but that doesn't mean you have to be part of every important moment in my life." "Every important moment?" "Sienna, it's your wedding. The most important moment for you, maybe. For me, it's the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where I need to surround myself with the right people." The right people. At that moment, something inside me broke. Something that had been cracking for years shattered completely. "You know what, Sienna? You're right. Maybe I'm not the right person. Maybe a bank employee who works himself to the bone to give his daughter everything she needs isn't good enough for your new world." "Dad, don't misunderstand me. No, let me finish. Maybe someone who stayed up all night when you had a fever, who learned how to braid a little girl's hair by watching YouTube videos, who sold his car to pay for your private school. Maybe that person isn't up to the standards of your elegant wedding." "Lucas, I think that's enough," Samuel intervened. "No, Samuel, let him talk," Sienna said with contempt. "Let him get it all out." "Get it all out? You think this is a tantrum?" "Yes, Dad, that's exactly what I think. You're throwing a tantrum because you're not the center of attention at my wedding." My wedding. As if I were a stranger trying to crash a private event. "Do you know what hurts the most, Sienna? It's not that Samuel is giving you away. It's not that you've put me at a table in the back. What hurts the most is how you're talking to me, as if I were just anybody, as if I mean nothing to you." Sienna looked me directly in the eyes. There was something cold in her gaze, something I had never seen before. "Do you want to know the truth, Dad?" "Yes, I want to know the truth. The truth is I legally changed my last name 6 months ago. I don't carry your last name anymore. My legal name is now Sienna Page Cross. I took Samuel's last name because I was ashamed of carrying yours." The world stopped. The words hung in the air like knives. "I was ashamed of carrying yours. 22 years of my life, 22 years of sacrifices, of unconditional love, of always being there, and she was ashamed to carry my name." "Why?" I managed to whisper. "Because when people ask about my family, when they talk about my connections, when they want to know where I come from, I don't want them to know I come from a 3-bedroom house in the suburbs and a dad who teaches accounting on weekends to pay the bills." Every word was a stab wound. "I want them to know I'm Sienna Cross, the stepdaughter of Samuel Cross, the successful businessman, not the daughter of Lucas Anderson, the loan officer." I couldn't take it anymore. I literally couldn't breathe. The air had become heavy, dense. I headed for the door without another word. "Lucas!" Samuel shouted after me. "You heard her! There's nothing more to talk about here." He was right. There was nothing more to talk about. I drove home on autopilot. I don't remember the route. I don't remember starting the truck or opening the door to my house. What I do remember is immediately calling my brother Marcus and telling him everything. Every venomous word, every humiliation. "That girl," Marcus said when I finished. "That ungrateful wretch." But what neither Sienna nor Paige nor Samuel knew was that with her decision to change her name and publicly humiliate me, she had just given up much more than just a father. She had just given up an inheritance of nearly $200,000 that her paternal grandparents had left specifically for the beloved granddaughter who carries our family name. She had also just given up the life insurance policy I had been paying religiously for 20 years, which had a value of $150,000, and she had given up ownership of the beach house my father had left me, which I had kept secret all these years, waiting for the perfect moment to give it to her as a wedding gift. All of it was in legal documents under the name Sienna Anderson, daughter of Lucas Anderson. But Sienna Anderson no longer existed. Now she was Sienna Cross, and Sienna Cross had no right to anything her paternal grandparents had left for the granddaughter who would carry the family name with pride. The next day, I went to see our family lawyer. Attorney Franklin had known me since I was a child. He had handled all of my family's legal affairs for decades. When I told him what had happened, he took off his glasses and slowly cleaned them like he always did when he was processing something serious. "Lucas," he said after a long silence, "are you absolutely sure about this?" "Completely," I replied. "I want you to change all the beneficiaries. Everything that is in Sienna Anderson's name goes to Miles. He is my nephew. He carries my name with pride, and he has been more of a son to me than my own biological daughter." The lawyer sighed. "This is a lot of assets, Lucas. Your parents' inheritance, the life insurance, the beach house. We're talking about almost $400,000 in total. I know exactly how much it is, and I know exactly who I want it to go to. And what if she changes her mind? What if she regrets it? Sir, my daughter told me she was ashamed to carry my name. She humiliated me in front of her mother and stepfather. She treated me like an inconvenience in her life. There is no going back." It took us 3 hours to make all the changes. Miles was now the primary beneficiary of everything. Marcus was the secondary beneficiary. Sienna's name no longer appeared anywhere in the documents. When I left the lawyer's office, I felt strange. Not exactly good, but relieved, as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. The following years were the most peaceful of my life in a long time. Not having to worry about Sienna, not having to put up with her snubs, not having to pretend I cared about her new life of luxury was liberating. I met Clara, a divorced woman with 2 grown children, in one of my night accounting classes. She was an accountant too, working for a construction company. A simple, hardworking woman who understood the value of effort. Clara never asked me for anything extravagant. She never complained about my old truck or my modest house. A year into our relationship, she told me she loved me exactly as I was. Miles, meanwhile, had become the son I always wished I'd had. He was studying industrial engineering, working part-time to pay for his expenses, and came over for lunch with me every Sunday. He always asked if I needed help with anything. He always remembered important dates. "Uncle Lucas," he'd say every time we saw each other, "thank you for being like a second father to me." Sadly, Marcus had passed away from a sudden heart attack a few years prior, a loss that brought Miles and me even closer. Clara got along great with Miles. When he came over on Sundays, she would cook for the 3 of us, and we would talk like a real family, a family that respected each other. When Miles turned 21, I decided to tell him the truth about the inheritance. I took him to dinner at a nice but not ostentatious restaurant, a place where we could talk quietly. "Miles," I said after the food arrived, "I need to tell you something important." "Did something bad happen, Uncle?" "No, nothing bad. On the contrary. Do you remember when Sienna left the house and then got married?" "Yeah, of course. I never understood why she treated us like that, especially you." "Well, after her wedding, some things happened, things I'd rather not recall in detail, but the result was that I had to make a difficult decision about some family assets." I explained everything. The grandparents' inheritance, the life insurance, the beach house, everything that was now legally his. Miles was quiet for several minutes. Finally, he asked, "Does Sienna know these assets existed?" "No, I never told her because I wanted to give them to her as a surprise when she got married, but things changed." "Uncle, this is a lot of money. Are you sure you want me to have it?" "Miles, you have been more of a son to me than my own daughter. You call me every week. You visit me. You treat me with kindness and respect. You carry our family name with pride. Of course, I want you to have it." Miles had tears in his eyes. "Thank you, Uncle, but more than the money, thank you for considering me a son. That's worth more than any inheritance." The economic crisis. 2 years later, when Miles was 23 and had already graduated as an engineer, life taught our family a lesson in justice that I couldn't have imagined in my wildest dreams. It all started with an economic crisis that hit the restaurant sector hard. Pandemic-related restrictions had closed many businesses, and Samuel's were no exception. One by one, his restaurants began to fail. Miles told me what he saw on social media. Uncle, they're not posting pictures of trips or expensive things anymore. In fact, Sienna posted that they're selling one of the cars. The situation deteriorated quickly. Samuel had mortgaged the house to invest in expanding his business right before the crisis. When the restaurants went bankrupt, the bank began the foreclosure process. The house with the pool, the house for which Sienna had abandoned me, was going to be repossessed. While they struggled with their financial problems, we were better than ever. Miles had used part of his inheritance as a down payment on an apartment in a new building. Clara and I had decided to get married and move in together. I had used my savings to renovate my house, and we were planning our future. Life couldn't be better until one Friday night, 5 years after her wedding, my phone rang. It was a number I recognized immediately, though I hadn't seen it in years. Sienna. For a moment, I considered not answering, but my curiosity got the better of me. "Hello," I answered in a neutral voice. "Dad," she said, her voice sounding broken. "It's me." "Hello, Sienna." "Dad, I need to talk to you." "What do you want to talk about?" There was a long silence. I could hear her ragged breathing, as if she were crying. "Dad, we're going through a very difficult situation. Samuel lost everything. We lost the house. Adrian and I had to move into a tiny apartment. I'm working at a call center at night just to pay the rent." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said. "Dad, I know things between us didn't end well. I know I hurt you, but I need your help." "What kind of help?" "Financial help. Just until we can get back on our feet, just a loan. I promise I'll pay you back." "Sienna, I don't have that kind of money to lend." "Dad, please. I know you have savings. I know you were always very careful with money." "And why do you think I would help you?" "Because I'm your daughter. Because despite everything that happened, I'm your blood." "My blood." Sienna. The last time we spoke, she told me she was ashamed to carry my name. "Dad, I was confused. I was young. I didn't know what I was saying." "You didn't know what you were saying when you legally changed your last name? You didn't know what you were saying when you put me at a table in the back of your wedding? You didn't know what you were saying when you told Samuel to give you away instead of your own father?" "Dad, please. I understand now that I was wrong. I understand now that you were always my real father. Samuel abandoned me as soon as he lost his money. You would have never abandoned me." "You're right. I would have never abandoned you. But you abandoned me. Dad, give me a chance to fix things." "Sienna, do you know the difference between you and Miles?" "Miles? My cousin Miles?" "Yes, your cousin Miles. Miles calls me every week just to ask how I am. Miles comes for lunch every Sunday. Miles proudly introduces me as his uncle when he meets new people. Miles carries the Anderson name with dignity." "What does that have to do with anything?" "It means that when you decided my last name was an embarrassment, when you decided I wasn't good enough for your new life, you didn't just lose a father. You lost so much more." "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the inheritance your paternal grandparents left for their beloved granddaughter. $200,000 that was waiting for you. I'm talking about the life insurance policy I paid faithfully for 20 years. Another $150,000. I'm talking about the beach house I inherited from my father that was going to be your wedding gift." There was total silence on the other end of the line. "All of that existed for Sienna Anderson. But Sienna Anderson doesn't exist anymore, does she? Now you're Sienna Cross. Dad, all of that existed. It all still exists. But now Miles is the owner of it all because Miles actually carries the family name with pride." "You gave my inheritance to Miles?" "No, I didn't give your inheritance to Miles. I gave his inheritance to Miles because from the moment you changed your name, it stopped being yours." "Dad, please, can we fix this? Can I change my last name back?" "Back for money? That's exactly what I thought you would say." "It's not about the money. It's because I understand now that I was wrong." "Sienna, when you have a child, you'll understand what it feels like to give everything for that person. And if that child ever tells you they're ashamed of you, you'll understand the pain you caused me. And when that happens, I want you to remember this conversation. I want you to remember that a father's love isn't infinite when there's no respect." "Dad, please." "Sienna, I hope you do well in life. I hope you find happiness, but that happiness isn't going to come from my family because you're no longer part of my family." And I hung up. Miles was having dinner with Clara and me when I told him about the call. "Did you really tell her all that, Uncle?" Miles asked. "All that and more." "And how do you feel?" "I feel at peace, Miles. For the first time in years, I feel completely at peace. Clara took my hand. I'm proud of you, Lucas. You did the right thing. Miles got up from the table and hugged me. Thank you, Uncle, for teaching me what family really means. And thank you for considering me worthy of carrying our name. 6 months later, Miles married his college sweetheart, a simple, hard-working girl who loved him for who he was, not for what he had. At the wedding, Miles asked me to walk the bride down the aisle. As we walked toward the altar together, Miles whispered to me, "Thank you for showing me what a real father is." That night after the wedding, Clara and I were at home looking at photos from the day. You know what the most beautiful part of all this is? Clara said to me. What's that? That Miles is going to be a wonderful father because he had the best example, and his children will carry the Anderson name with the same pride he does. She was right. The Anderson name would continue, but it would be carried by someone who respected and honored it. Someone who understood that family isn't about money or social status. It's about love, respect, and loyalty. 3 things Sienna never understood, and that Miles learned from a young age. And as I write this, years later, Miles and his wife have just given me the news that they are going to have their first child. A boy who will carry the Anderson name and who will grow up knowing his family's history. A story of loyalty rewarded and ingratitude punished. A story of poetic justice that took years to unfold, but that in the end gave everyone exactly what they deserved.